Hey friends, welcome back to the Big Talk podcast. I'm your host, Tricia Brouk, founder of the Big Talk Academy, award-winning director, producer, and author. And this is episode 626. In this episode, I am talking with the amazing Rebecca Whitman. Known as the Magnetic Abundance Mentor, Rebecca transforms the women she works with from burned out to balanced, beautiful, and abundant. She supports those seeking to leave toxic relationships and magnetize their soulmate at any stage of life. Her six-figure side hustle program helps women to exit from unfulfilling jobs to a profitable purpose. Rebecca is the best-selling author of 3 books on business mindset and an award-winning host of the Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant podcast. In 2022, she was named the top life coach of the year by the International Association of Top Professionals. Rebecca is truly an influential voice, and I am super excited to welcome her to the Big Talk today. Let's do this. Rebecca, I am so excited to have you as a featured guest today on the Big Talk. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Tricia. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, we always start with our speakers' backstories, and that's because I want to take us back in time so that you can teach us about what happened, what your life experience was in leading up to this moment in time. And you can go back as far as you want. You can go back to childhood, you can go back to last Saturday, whatever feels good in service of sharing with our audience your progression.
Yeah, so I moved to LA about 23 years ago to become an actress, and I had small parts on really big shows like Friends, CSI, and 24. And I never did get my big break. I found myself working at children's acting schools, which was really fun because I don't have kids. And while the kids were off at school, I was taking classes with great thought leaders like Michael Beckwith, Esther Hicks, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, Marianne Williamson, and I really started to apply their teachings to my job at the kids acting school. And before I knew it, I was making 6 figures. I did not apply it so well to my love life, and I had the habit of having very toxic, just emotionally abusive relationships with narcissistic men. And I decided to marry one, hoping he would change. He did not. It was a very tumultuous relationship, and I filed for divorce after 3 years. And while my marriage was slowly and painfully unraveling, my dad was slowly and painfully dying back in Ohio. And in one of our last conversations, he said, I think you should write a book. A few months later, my dad died, my marriage was dissolved, and I was sitting across the desk from my financial planner. And he said, Rebecca, even though you lost your dad in your marriage, you're having your best fiscal year ever. You're actually a millionaire. And I think you should teach women how you were so resilient. So I wrote a book. It's called How to Make a 6-Figure Income Working Part-Time. And in the book, I divide life into 7 key areas, which I call my 7 pillars of abundance. And when you have all 7 areas of your life in alignment, you can be, do, or have anything you want. So now I teach women to go from burned out to balanced, beautiful, and abundant through getting these 7 areas of life in alignment.
So beautiful and incredibly articulate. Let's go back to working it. I want to break this down a little bit. The working at schools, going through 2 of the most difficult things out of the 3, divorce, death, and moving. You
Yeah.
were dealing with divorce and death, and I'm assuming you also had to move when you separate from somebody. That ends up being a tumultuous transition as well. During this process of being an actor, being on all these shows, I am a former dancer. I'm in showbiz theater and film as well. So I understand this desire to make a living as an actor, which is very challenging, make a living as a dancer, which is very challenging. And you were able to find some sort of path that led you to sort of let go of this version of your voice, which was to pursue a career in acting. I understand that there's only so many small parts you can do on big shows before you're
Right.
no longer fulfilled, right?
Yes.
And so what happened when you started using your voice in these acting schools for children that led you to searching for the self-development with all of these incredible teachers and mindset teachers and teachers that are directly and completely connected to source and universe. What about your voice helped you make that step to this step? And then we're going to move into the next part.
That's a great question. Nobody's ever asked me that, and I've been on like 200 podcasts. So at the kids acting school, I was just doing that to have a flexible schedule so that I could audition for bigger roles on TV shows and movies. And it was so humbling, Trisha, not to get those breaks. I had gotten pretty much everything I wanted up until then. I was a nationally ranked tennis player, 40th in the country. I graduated from honors from Princeton University. I, usually got the guy that I wanted or whatever. And then I come to LA and it was like, first of all, I was like a average size woman. Everyone here was like, size 0 to 2. So like I wanted to be on a show called Entourage and they wouldn't even accept me as an extra unless I was a size 4 or below. And it
Oh
was
my
just,
gosh,
yeah,
that's so repulsive.
it was before the Me Too movement. So literally like an agent would be like, come back tomorrow in a bikini and I'll decide if I want to sign you. It was so humbling and dehumanizing and frustrating to have this childhood dream since I was 3 and then not to be able to even like find like my footing here. So I was like, I have got to like get some help, study spirituality, study personal growth. I was also getting sober, which has a lot of spirituality in it, the 12 steps. So it all kind of just put me on this path of personal growth. And I like to say that I didn't get my dream of being an actor, but just being here in LA, it sculpted my soul in a way that would have never happened had I stayed in Ohio, where I'm from. So I feel like everything happens for a reason, and rejection is just redirection, and all this stuff like the acting classes, the all the improv exercises, all the stuff I did, it helps me to be on a podcast like yours. It helps me to, do different things that I do as far as webinars and keynotes and all the stuff. So everything was leading me toward this path, and this path is way more impactful of helping other people than just being an actor saying somebody else's lines.
I love that you're from Ohio. I'm also from the Midwest, so we have a lot in common, which I
Where are you
think is
from?
pretty cool. I'm from Missouri.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Jefferson.
I went
Or-
uh Arnold, Missouri, 20 miles south of St. Louis.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So you went west, I went east. And I was asked many times to come to dance auditions wearing a bikini. And I always said, hell no, that's not what's happening here. And I say that because you made a decision, whether you were conscious of it or not, Rebecca, to say no to things
Mhm.
and to understand that your voice as an actor had much bigger impact as Rebecca.
Beautiful. Thank you. I received that.
And so being able to kind of come to that accidentally, we all come to things accidentally, I think sometimes, well, with divine support until we become conscious, it seems accidental. You then started studying with the greats and were able to create and manifest and call in all of this success and abundance with your work. I'm wondering if you've ever connected the dots to the death of your acting career, the death of your marriage, and the sad, sad death of your father with the birth of who you truly are meant to be in the world.
That is a beautiful connection. And I never really thought about those three things, but I know that, death usually happens in threes. So I know that my dad is a guardian angel of mine and that we had a soul contract. When I was 2, he found me at the bottom of our family swimming pool, completely, drowned. And he swam in, got me. I've never even talked about this on a podcast. Brought me back to life, gave me CPR, and he saved my life. So I feel like his soul and mine have a really strong soul contract. So it doesn't surprise me that his death caused a rebirth in me by him asking me to write a book.
Oh my gosh. What is your father's name?
Roy.
I just want to thank Roy for bringing you back to life and giving you to humanity, and the work that you're doing, and the book that you are putting out there, and all of the women you are helping to have the kind of balance and abundance they deserve. And I'm just so excited to unpack a little bit more about the 7 pillars of abundance that you teach. And before we dive into that, you have taken some incredible stages with incredible people: Grant Cardone, Jack Canfield, Les Brown. When did you fully embody your influential voice and know that this is what you're meant to be doing?
It was really in 2020 during the pandemic that I actually shared a virtual stage with them. And that's when I launched my podcast, The Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant Show, which I'm so excited to have you on. And yeah, it was in 2020. I was comfortable at the kids' acting schools because I was making 6 figures, and it was just like, I was like Groundhog Day doing the same thing every day. I had it dialed in, but it wasn't invigorating and exciting me. And when I was put on furlough, I had to reinvent myself in the online space. And I took so many courses and really learned how to show up online. And that's when everything changed. So a lot of people, I feel like, had to shift during COVID and pivot. And some people shifted for the worst. And I was lucky enough to, not lucky, but intentional enough to use it to shift for the best.
I love that this has only been a few years and here you are just crushing it. Do you feel like you're completely embodying who you're meant to be?
I do. Yes, I do. And I also see the next best version of me who's like calling me to the next steps and the next steps. And I feel like anybody who's listening, the next best version of you is bolder, louder, takes up more space, and there's always room to show up bigger, brighter, and more impactful.
Ooh, let's go there a little bit, Rebecca. So the idea of being knowing who she is, how do you embody her now with the voice you're speaking so that you can meet her when be ready for her when you meet her in the future?
It's getting outside of my comfort zone and doing what I just did, sharing about, something that I've never shared before about, that I was drowning when I was 2. Just being vulnerable, and the less I care about what people think and the more I'm willing to be polarizing, because I am a recovering people pleaser. And when you try to please everyone, a lot of times you lose yourself and your true, authentic, powerful voice. And I'm learning that it's okay that I'm not everybody's cup of tea and that I can't make everybody like me. I was that woman who, if 99 people at the party said they love my dress, I would be like, why did that person not say they love my dress? I was such a people pleaser. And now I'm just getting over that.
Is that because of wisdom and experience, or is it because you have a specific audience that you're speaking to?
Is what, because of wisdom and experience, that I want to be more polarizing?
That you don't care about what people think?
Well, I still do, but I feel like that next best version of me doesn't. So I think my goal is freedom. And when you care about what people think, you're not free. You
Ooh,
you are looking to them for validation, and you're looking for them to reflect back to you who you really are. But as I grow on this path, I know that it doesn't matter what other people think about me. It only matters what I think about me and what God thinks about me. And as long as my intention is to come from love, then that's all I can do. If people,
that's amazing.
I can't control how it's received.
No, and I'm going to repeat this for our listeners because it's such a great statement. If you care about what people think, you are not free. If you
Yeah.
care about what people think, you are not free. And that is directly related to also, if you care about what people think, you are not using your voice in your voice. You're speaking what you think they want to hear. And that's where the polarizing thing can happen. But it doesn't matter, because if you are speaking your truth and using your voice through your point of view and saying what you know to be true for you, it doesn't matter what other people think, as long as you are leading from love and humility and curiosity and dignity and respect.
Exactly. Yep. You summed it up perfectly.
Let's talk a little bit about how abundance plays in your life and how using your voice and not only speaking and sharing your information, but I think I would love for you to connect the dots between abundance and speaking your truth.
Sure. Well, people think abundance is just money, but the way I teach abundance, it's all 7 areas of your life, which are in my teaching in order of importance: spirituality, health and fitness is 2, emotions are 3, romance is 4, mindset is 5, social, and then financial. So, abundance can show up because if you are being your true, authentic self, you can attract the right friends, the right romantic partner, the right business partnerships. You can do the workouts that feel authentically good for your body. You can have a spiritual practice that makes you feel connected to the divine. And yeah, being authentic and being abundant to me are very intertwined. And they used to say that the highest vibration is love. Now they're saying the highest vibration is authenticity.
Mm. What's the difference between love and authenticity in your mind?
Well, authenticity is just being true to yourself, being self-expressed, and love is, just being kind and compassionate and empathetic.
Someone asked me once, who do you love the most? And I remember my answer shocked this person because I said, me.
Yes,
How do you feel about that?
I think that is who you have to love the most. And a big shift, how I went from being attracted to abusive, narcissistic men to attracting my soulmate. We've been happily married now for almost 3 years with just no fighting, no drama, total harmony. It's when I changed my relationship to myself, when I was not loving myself and needing external validation through acting, through looking a certain way, through all the stuff. I was also in my own narrative very mean to myself, constantly telling myself I'm not enough. And then when I shifted that and decided to love myself and just be like, whatever's happening on the outside, whether I'm single, whether I have a friendship, whatever it is, I just want to be kind and loving to myself. That is when I magnetized my divine soulmate, who's so kind. He mirrors exactly the way I talk to myself, but I had to learn to love myself first.
That's so beautiful. And I want to highlight for our listeners, Rebecca, that you changing how you spoke to yourself through thought or literal language is using your voice to manifest and create the abundance you desire. And for those of you who are listening and watching, being an influential voice doesn't necessarily, it doesn't mean externally. If you're speaking kind words to everyone else and you're speaking violence to yourself, that is incongruent, and it is limiting your voice in the world because you're limiting your voice into yourself. So I love that you shared that with us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are you ready for some fast talk?
Bring it.
All right. What is your favorite book, Rebecca?
The 4 Agreements.
Amazing. Who's your favorite speaker and why?
Michael Beckwith, because he is the Jimi Hendrix of spirituality.
Ooh, I love that. That's fantastic. How do you memorize when you're speaking from big stages?
I don't. I just use bullet points and I just speak from my heart.
Amazing. Do you channel when you speak?
I do.
I have a feeling.
Yeah.
What do you do the day before you speak, whether it's on stage or on a podcast?
I don't even think about it. I just live my life. I feel like I'm so connected to the divine that I'm in a constant conversation with my higher power, who I choose to call God. It's a constant, it's like listening to like I don't know, a soundtrack of what to do, who to talk to, who to call, how to respond. And I don't do it perfectly and I lose touch, but I feel like I've already written the outline of my speech. And then when it's go time, I'm just like, I'm already so tuned into that voice, it just comes through.
I am filled with goosebumps right now. I know what you're saying. That's amazing. What podcasts are you currently obsessed with that you can share with our listeners?
The Skinny Confidential, his and her. I love Smartless. I love the Ed Milet Show. Those are definitely my top three. And yeah, I'm totally obsessed with those three shows.
That's amazing. I listen to Smartless on Saturdays. It's like my candy. It's like having a donut for breakfast. It's so fantastic.
It's my candy at the end of the day because I use my mind so much to coach people and to be on podcasts and do all this stuff. Like when I listen to them, I don't have to think. It is like mental candy. I'm just like totally entertained. What are
Yeah.
your top three favorite podcasts?
I listen to Smartless on the weekends. I listen to the Successful Mind podcast, and uh, I listen to Manifestation Babe.
Oh yeah, I listened to that.
Yeah,
Good.
I listen to James Wedmore's podcast. I'm a
Yeah.
big podcast listener. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
awesome.
and then I'm going to give you one more just for the listeners. The Way Out is in. This is Thich Nhat Hanh's podcast, which
Ooh.
is it's a go-to for me, and I love it.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah,
Love it. Yeah, I love podcasts too. I love learning through listening to conversation. That's how kids learn, when they're
yeah.
listening to people's conversation all around them. So it's so like intuitive and fun to learn through listening to conversation.
Yeah, and I'm going to highlight what you just said. That's how kids learn, which is why when you are hanging out, be mindful as an influential voice of how you speak because they are taking it all in.
Yes. And most things are not taught, they're caught. And when we're listening to conversation, whether listening to a podcast or kids listening to parents, they're catching things that you don't even realize they're catching.
Absolutely. It has been such a pleasure to have you on the show today as a featured guest. I know you have a gift for our listeners.
I do. I went to a 12-step meeting when I was a teenager. I met a woman named Janet, and she pulled me aside and she said, "This is how you write in a God journal." And she gave me these life-changing journal prompts. And I have been following this journal format every day now for over 30 years. It has gotten me through the best of times and the worst of times, but I continue to learn from my experience, to celebrate my wins, to celebrate other people's wins, to learn from their experience, to not only have a gratitude practice, but a surrender practice, surrendering the things that are causing me anxiety. And I would like to offer this journal as a gift to your listeners.
Oh my gosh, that is so spectacular. Thank you. Is there a link that we can go to get the journal?
Yes, I will send you the link. Everything that I'm doing is in my Pillar link, pillar.io. I'll give you that link and they can find the Abundance Journal, my podcast, and my up and coming events.
Amazing. We will link to all of this in the show notes, everybody. Where else can our listeners find you? Your website?
Yeah, you can find me on my website, Rebecca Elizabeth with a Z, Whitman.com. And you can also find me on Instagram at Rebecca E. Whitman, X at Rebecca E. Whitman, Clubhouse at Rebecca E. Whitman.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. And for all of you who are listening, thank you for dropping in. We so appreciate your time. And if you love this episode, rate and review it, share it with your friends. If you are watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you get access to our latest episodes. And remember, everybody, your voice matters. Big love.